It's the YT and Chris Show, SA Bros.
Yes. Good evening. Goeienaand, Kunjani, Sanbunani, Dumelang, Molweni, and all the rest. Everybody, welcome to SA Bros.
Kunjani, dude, ek's impressed. Jy gooi nogal 'n plethora of African greetings daaroor.
Ek sê vir jou, pal, ek het mos bietjie geleer geluister terug in die ou dae, sommer. Nou ja.
Lekker. Lekker ou, ek het 'n lekker Vrydag gehad. Ons het nou nie gebraai nie, maar Lief het vir ons baie lekker gekook en nou is ek reg om freaking te lag en dan gaan ons 'n bietjie gatskit later op Twitch, maar ek kan nie wag vir hierdie een nie. Ons is saam met the legend, that is Darren Maule vanaand, bra. Ek het al my hul geskeer vir hierdie ou jare terug toe ek nog 20 was, voor ek my 40s was ou.
Daar sê en ek sê vir jou, ek ken vir Darren al ook baie jare en ons het 'n lang pad saam gestap en ons het nou lekker kak gepraat net voordat ons live gegaan het oor die dinge en die goeters wat ons aangejaag het terug in die dae, maar nou ja, dis hoe dit was, né?
Oh yeah.
Ja, so en ek sien die viewers begin vinnig opkruip, so ja, ek dink ons is reg om live te gaan. Wat dink jy?
Let's do it.
All right, everybody, welcome and good evening to Mr. Darren Maule. How are you, sir?
Oh, so Mike's gemute.
Oh, is het nog steeds?
Nee, is reg.
I have to do my own audience there. Only during lockdown do you get a comedian on a Friday night at 7 o'clock. There is no way.
Straight up. We are the luckiest guys on earth to get you this job.
Exactly.
Yeah. So my manager phoned me and she says to me, do you know Whitey? And I'm like, yeah, everyone in the industry knows Whitey. Yeah, well, Whitey and Chris wanna interview you on Friday night. And I'm like, let me check my diary. Wait, I don't have one. There's nothing. We're on lockdown. So let's do it. Let's catch up.
Yeah. So is that your little studio that you work from home every morning for your show?
This is it's a Friday, so it's in a little bit of a bad state. I normally actually the bed is made. That's actually a sheet that I'm going to change a little bit later. But yeah, life under lockdown. Strangely enough, there isn't a lot of time. You're up early, you're broadcasting, and then you're pre-recording, and then you're doing interviews, then you're doing research, and then you're making dinner, then you're teaching your child, and then you're cleaning the house, and you're sweeping the floor, and you're mopping, and you're cleaning the pool, and you're doing the garden, and it's like. I don't know. And then people phone you up and say, hey, so listen, in your spare time, can you quickly just do a voiceover recording for this 1 hour documentary I'm doing? I'm like, no, there is no spare time. Where's this fabulous spare time everyone's talking about? That's not happening.
Yeah, exactly.
And my daughter's only 11. She's 11.
Yeah.
And I thought I'd be able to help my child with English and Afrikaans and maths and stuff up until, standard 8, it might get a bit tricky. And she's coming to me with 11 years old in grade 6. And I'm like, I have no idea what that is.
What is that?
I can't teach you that. And then so I don't look like a stupid dad. Now I got to go do the teaching course myself. I go and learn the class myself so that I know. And that's an hour of my life, and then I got to go sit it down and teach it. Like I've known it my whole life, so I don't look stupid. I don't lose my credibility with my child. She's like, how do you not know grade 6 stuff? So I'm spending half my time back at school, and then the other half teaching. So I'm like, I'm a student teacher as well. And I put that on my CV. You better bet that's going to go on my CV.
Yeah. Don't worry.
Lockdown teacher.
So well, that answers that questions about what you're doing during lockdown. You can hardly breathe during lockdown is your answer. Am I right?
No, it's hectic, man. Where are you? Whitey? You're your posy. You're home. That's your home. That's your TV in the back there, Chris. Yeah. Where are you? You look like you're backstage at Parker's.
You know what? I made it feel like that just so I can feel like I'm on a stage somewhere. I'm around the corner from Whitey, but I'm also in my posy.
Yeah. So is that black velvet curtain behind you?
I wish it was velvet. It's actually some other sheets and stuff that I used for a home porn thing that I shot. Yeah, so that's beautiful. It just drapes right,
Did you get the right music and everything?
Yeah, no, I've got that. It's down.
Yeah.
Well, Darren, like you said, you obviously teaching your daughter now in lockdown. Are you making time to give her some lessons and stuff?
For what? Comedy, radio?
No, for school stuff, your daughter.
Yeah, I don't know when schools are going to go back, guys. Everyone, like even our Minister of Education, but basic education, yesterday didn't know, and then she was going to say the 4th of May, maybe for 7s and 12s, and then she moved it to maybe the 14th of May for 7s and 12s, maybe to the 1st of June for 7s to 12s, and then a week or 2 weeks after that. But if the rest of the world is to go by, I don't see anything happening until end of July, June, July, August, mid-August, September. So, either way, my child's going to either have to redo the year. But I have found that just by letting her have classes, then the rest of the lockdown is like a reward.
Okay.
So if she does a little bit of work and I can check up, I have no idea whether she's doing it properly or not. I'm joking. Like I didn't really go and study how to do long division, because it's one thing to know how to do long division. It's another thing to teach someone to long division. It's another skill. Yes. And we are learning this during lockdown, Brew. We are learning that there are people that just don't get paid enough. There's teachers, we have not been paying them enough. They should be getting teachers, and when I say doctors, I mean, I'm not talking about, like your cardiovascular surgeons make a lot of money, but your average, small town GP doesn't make a fortune in, there's GPs right now that are not getting visitations, and they're really, really struggling to make their mortgage payments and everything. So, your doctors and your nurses and your teachers and your Brew, we went 3 weeks without garbage removal, and I was like, I worship these guys. I worship these guys. Yeah. And that was just my gardening, just the hedge trimming and the lawn that was in a couple of bags. And I was like, these people, we're going to have a new appreciation for them, and stop making fun of them in comedy. I think you make fun.
You're absolutely true, right, Darren, because at my complex, obviously our garden service people aren't allowed there, and I don't own a lawnmower, so my grass is growing at a rapid pace. I'm going to start losing the children in the grass because it's going to be taller than them.
Well, you're up in Joburg, here in KZN, long grass equals black mambas. So that's you might lose your child, but at least it'll come back like the movie Jumanji. And it's a mamba. That's problematic. And then the mambas, they fearless, so they'll come through the grass and then in the window. And I'm not a big fan. I'm not a big fan of snakes. Some of my exes been a fan of snakes. That's how they roll. Myself, the spitting cobra, not me. I'm not a fan. And so cutting the grass is but although the front part is not my property, that belongs to the government. So I'm not allowed to mow it. It's like, I think today I was allowed to, because you're allowed out between 6 and 9, but I broadcast between 6 and 9. So I'm like, unless I teach my 11-year-old how to mow the lawn.
That's genius.
Problem solved.
There you go. We all had to do it.
I'll just tell her I'll give her the measurements and tell her to cut the lawn and do Pythagoras at the same time. You see what I'm saying?
You're a great father. You're a great
birds with one stone there.
Yeah.
Just came to me now.
Well done. We've got a question here quickly from Lizzie. She's asking, what's the little mouse's name?
I made a decision right at the beginning of the entertainment sort of thing. I don't pull the kids into the narrative until they are old enough to choose. In actual fact, I chatted to Barry about this backstage at one of the gigs, and because I remember him telling stories about his lighties, and it was like very, very embarrassing stories. And I was like, how did the kids go to school when Dad was on stage talking about 13-year-olds behind closed doors reading books? How do you? How did the kids go to school and not get? And he's like, they grow a thick skin. And I said, I can't do that to my child. So I protect all that information. When she's old enough, she will share that. But until then, she's the mouse. And that's why.
All right. Perfect. Well, there you go, Liz. Your question answered. Mouse is mouse for the time being.
Well, dude, obviously, me and Whitey have known you for like super long. And tell me, because I didn't know when you got married. Are you married?
No. I was living in sin.
Oh, okay, great. So okay, then I understand.
No, Yeah, I think it was 11 years ago, so it was in Darren's old life, and Darren was making a lot of decisions, in spur of the moment without thinking them through. And I was with Carrie at the time. Carrie and we'd been together 4 or 5 years. She had 2 kids from a previous marriage. I never wanted to have kids, and then I just decided. I said I was rash, but it's like. Back then you made some stupid decisions, like let's eat popcorn with the biltong in it and the whispers while we watch a movie. That is a reasonably stupid decision, but like, hey, let's make a human being. I kind of like, it was back then, so it was like, you just sort of like flipping. Yeah, let's do that. Yeah, let's go make a human being, because we've been practicing a lot. So let's just follow through this time. and then like for 9 months I was like for Mouse was 5 weeks prem, so like 7 months and 3 weeks. I was like, I don't know what the hell has happened here. I don't know how I'm going to cope with this. I am not father material, and I certainly wasn't father material for the first 2 years of her life. And then she was born, and then it just changes. So any father who was there for the birth of the child, you can't really explain it. And it's like, something happens. It took a while for it to actually, fully kick in, because I only cleaned up about 18 months after that. But at least I did, I did clean up, and now I have a fabulous, you're all good.
Yeah, well, obviously you're a beacon of hope for us, because you're teaching your kids how to like mow the lawn, do their homework. Dude, you've stepped into fatherhood amazingly. I've got to commend you. You're great, Dad.
Salute, yeah.
No, but hang on, guys. I made this mistake as well. I was going to pat myself on the back. Please remember that I only have one with me. The moment you have two, the whole ball game changes. Whole ball game changes. Now it's juggling and status, and did you give enough attention to this one and that one, and have I been bad to that one and this one? Then they play each other up against each other, and they play against you. They conspire like a green mamba and a black mamba in the grass, and they say, okay, you just distract them over there, I'll come in through the bedroom window. And if you have 3 or 4, the rule book's out the window. You're just improvising every single day of your life, and you're just hoping that your child got the better end of the gene pool, because No, it changes like compoundedly, almost, like coronavirus. Let me see, it's like coronavirus, and then there's like, okay, so more people get it, more people, but it doesn't. It works. The virus, it's got an R naught of 2.5 to 3, which means for every one person, that then it goes to 3 people. Now those 3 people, another 3 people. So that's a curve. It's a curve, right? So one child is like, okay, so that's your life without a child, right? And that's your life with a child, right? And you would think, okay, so 2 children, you would go like that. No child, 1 child, 2 children. It goes up, it's gone. And once you have 3 or 4 children, I promise you, if anyone was to do a scientific study and find the cases of alcoholism in families compared to how many children they have, I'm telling you, they're aligned.
Yeah, exactly.
I just used to think people who dope more pump more. That's what I thought. Like whenever you look at like shit where it's like 5 or 7 kids, there's always like this oak living with nothing. They just have dope and God knows what other stuff they do, and then they got like 7 kids. That's honestly what I thought.
Yeah, but that's why when the government made the decision, okay, we're not selling alcohol, I was like, I understand that, because in my I was an expert. I'm not talking as someone who dabbled in alcohol. I was an expert every single night. I'm the Stephen Hawking of alcohol. I knew alcohol intimately, and all of the cousins and second cousins twice removed related to alcohol. All those little recreational pharmaceuticals, I knew them very, very well. And I can tell you, in my considerable experience, not one good decision was made on alcohol. Not one. So if we're in a situation right now where we're asking people to be sensible, to be responsible, to make good decisions every single moment of every day. Because the thing about the coronavirus is it's not a matter of, you get exposed to it 4 or 5 times and you get sick. No, you expose once, you're sick. And you expose someone else once, you're sick. So it's one silly decision that has a massive ripple effect. So Again, if you had told me back then while I was drinking that drinking was going to stop now, I would have been the front line of the revolt. But now that I'm on the other side of it and I understand, seriously, I cannot. I rack my brain. I speak to all the people I was with back then. Not one good decision was made with alcohol.
Well, you also said that you smoked. How do you feel about? Because yesterday, I think I flipped out when I heard what the fuck they're taking away.
But I saw you had a guai now, Chris. How much stock do you have,
dude? Those are fake Zools. I actually roll them with grass and stuff. It's just our neighbors are checking this, and they'll come and
how do you get your grass so white?
No, that's real Rizzler paper. Look, I stocked up also before the stuff.
5 roses.
Yeah, and 5 roses. I thought I was like a prepper, you know. So I made sure everything was sorted out. But yesterday,
when we heard, I've stocked up on a year's worth of fluids and coils. So I'm like, I'm fine. And so I'm fine. But I'm like, I've just always been. With this, I've always had backups on the backups because I know that if I don't have this around, I'm going to go back to smoking cigarettes. And I'm not happy with the legislation. In actual fact, I got into a lot of trouble with my circle of people who communicate to me about my circle of influence and my brand.
Mm-hmm.
And on my Facebook, I posted the petition that said, let's vote for rescinding the banning of cigarettes, because it was only 2,000 votes that Dr. Dlamini Zuma considered before she came up with the ban out of 77,000 people. And within an hour of this had been up, it had reached 100,000. And by the time I checked in the next day, it was just short of 500,000 people had voted on this. It was a change.org petition.
Yes.
And so I had no problem sharing that because, again, as someone who was experienced, again, Whitey will know this, I wasn't a casual or an occasional smoker. I used to I was back actually before Parkers, before Dax, there was Hurricanes.
Yes.
And at Hurricanes, and I used to MC just about every Thursday, right? Yeah. It was not, and I used to smoke on stage. And it was not unusual for me to be smoking halfway through a joke, and I could see my cigarettes finished, and then take another one out of my pocket, and then light the cigarette with my cigarette while doing comics. So I wouldn't even wait to get backstage.
There's an Afrikaans word for that.
What's it called?
It's called donkey It's when you take another guai and you it's called donkey
I do remember that. And so the rationale that says people will share, and because the virus is spread by the lips, and then I think it's a little bit tentative. I think it's a little bit weak. I am not a fan, but I don't want to join that party of people that are talking out against the government right now. I think the government's doing whatever they can. I don't want to join that group of people. But on this point, I have to put my hand up and say, I don't think you made the right call. I think you might need to revisit it at a later stage.
We are with you, man.
Yeah.
Absolutely, be with you,
Darren. I had a message on our Facebook page on SA Bros where there was a lady, Marty, who said her son is like the biggest Darren Maule fan. He listens to your program on East Coast every morning religiously. So meneer Chris met die brilletjies decided that maybe we should invite him onto the show. So I spoke
met die brilletjies. Al drie van ons het brilletjies.
Nee, Chris met die brilletjies. Chris.
Okay.
So we had the idea to bring the little lighty onto the show, and he is actually now online. So he'd like to quickly come and say hello, and if you could just give him a quick shout out and everything, so we can go on with our show. So yes, Christian, it's English, Christian, not Afrikaans. And there you go.
Okay.
Hello, Christian. How you doing, buddy? Are you there? There you go. Well, you're live with Mr. Darren Maule. Say hello to him.
I can see that.
Hi, Christian.
Thank you so much for all of this. I'm very good, thank you.
Where do you stay, or where are you from?
Well, I am here in Volton Vader, Richards Bay.
Oh, Richards Bay. Okay, so I was just wondering because, like, when I left Joburg 10 years ago, It takes you about 10 years, by the way, to become a Durbanite. It takes you about that long. And but now, 10 years later, when if I'm actually looking for a break from the limelight, I go back to Joburg because they've all forgotten who I am. So it's actually So when people say, "Oh, I know Darren Maule," then I go, "Oh, you must be from KZN, and you're from Richards Bay. How are you handling the lockdown there, Christian?" And wait, hang on. Before I ask you about the lockdown, your name's Christian, but you're English. Where'd you get the Christian from, and not just Christian?
Well, that was kind of a tough. That was earlier when I was very young. I gave my parents a very hard time about it. They always say, "Christian, no, Christian, Christian, no, Christian." I used to just argue with them until they just gave up and just say, "Okay, fine, Christian, there you go."
Okay. And how are you handling lockdown?
It's getting quite lonely now.
Shame, man. How old are you?
Even though I have my brother and mom. I'm 12.
So you must give me some advice now. Okay, you're lucky. You got one brother, one sister. How many siblings you got?
Not sister, my mom.
Okay, you got your mom and your
brother.
And your brother. So there's 3 of you under lockdown.
Yeah.
Okay, there's 3 of us under lockdown here as well. I've got myself, the mouse, and my banana, and we're doing okay actually. But I do wonder because my child is being amazing. She's doing her work. She's doing her schoolwork. She does the chores when I ask her to. If I need to do stuff, she goes away and she does her own thing. But she must be missing her friends, and she must be missing the socials. She must be missing going to the mall and going shopping. So my question to you is like, as a parent, what's the best thing that you can do for kids? Say this goes on for another 3 weeks. What's the best thing I could do?
Well, try to keep everyone there happy, and then hopefully you won't go insane before 3 weeks end.
Okay, and now here's the thing, right? As adults, we can go to the chemist and we can get stuff that helps us with the insanity. All right, they're called Schedule 5s. We have access to that. What do 12-year-old kids do to stop themselves from going crazy?
Well, yeah. If you can, go to the shops, buy them some brand new video games, and if they're happy, you're pretty much fine for a couple of months at the most.
Okay, I can hear moms listening there. Yes, brand new video games. What's the new video games you want? Because haven't you got Fortnite?
No, unfortunately, no. We can't buy it. We don't have anything that will work with it.
Oh, I've opened up a can of worms there. Mom's judging me now because I just brought up the Fortnite.
Yeah.
Okay, Chris.
So
no, she's not. She's bobbing her head off.
All right, Christian. Well, I wish we were able to send you parcels and stuff because I got a whole bunch of games left over here for PS3. Are you on a PS3 or PS2, or what are you playing on your laptop?
360.
360.
What are you playing on?
Xbox 360.
Oh, I can't help you out. I've only got PS3 games. I was going to send you Call of Duty and FIFA 18.
I'm happy with all the games I have. The only thing I need now is just time alone with the Xbox. Because
All right, you tell your mom. This is what you take away from this, right? You tell your mom, Darren Maule said this, and Darren Maule's done the research, right? I have a lot of people that I've spoken to on the radio, a lot of WhatsApps that have come through, and the only way to survive lockdown is to have a schedule that everyone sticks to. You make sure that mom puts in your scheduled time for Xbox. It's your time. She can't take it away from you. You have rights, even though you're only 12 and you have limited amount of hair. You have rights. And your rights include minimum 2 hours Xbox during lockdown, maybe 4 a day. Just tell your mom that's the research. I've done it. I've spoken to the ministers. That's the law.
That's the law.
She's heard you loud and clear.
Awesome.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad you could spend some time with Darren. Send your regards to mom and continue listening to the show. Have fun. Take care. Bye.
Okay, I have one question. Or goodbye.
Okay.
That's
it. Sorry,
Sounds
man.
like you had a
Sorry,
question, but-
Christian. Yeah.
Mom cut him off. That sounds like a very strict single mom. And that's another group of people that we don't respect enough. Single moms,
Yeah.
they have a tough time. And then add this lockdown. And can you imagine? Just for a second. So just as an experiment, imagine you're a single mom and you're a frontliner. So imagine you spend 8, 10, 12 hours looking after other people and you're exposed to the virus more so than anyone else. Yeah. And then you have to come home. Then you still have to educate your child, feed your child. Then you have to sleep yourself. You also have to make sure that all the other stuff like the cleaning and the gardening and the cleaning up dog poop has been taken care of. And then you've got to repeat this process. And at some stage, you've still got to go do shopping. Or what if one of the kids gets sick and you've got to go, you don't have the grandparents to lean on. You don't have the neighbors because you can't share your kid during the lockdown. So single moms, if they get through this without committing homicide, they should get a medal.
Yeah. Big up. Well, I'm surprised my wife hasn't killed me because I'm literally like a child here at home, man. That's the honest to God's truth. I'm sure Whitey's the same. He's just a really big child, but he's a child nonetheless.
Yeah, exactly.
We just got older.
Yeah.
Well, Darren, let's get to the funny stuff, man, because we know that you've been in comedy forever. When was your first gig? Can you remember your first gig when you walked up and you were like, "Fuck, I'm making people laugh"?
I do actually remember my first gig. Although, because I've always been in the arts my entire life. So I played around at the choir in primary school, and I was in theater at high school, and I got my colors for drama. And then I was always in amateur dramatics clubs. And then I went and studied. And then halfway through my third year, a mate and I who were practicing a physical comedy sketch. Yeah. For our movement exam at the end of the third year. So we've been rehearsing this. We had hooked up and we decided to go catch a movie one night, and we went to the cinema at the Randburg Waterfront, and Hysterics was there. That was the first Hysterics before it became Tony Stewart's Laugh Out Loud. And or Elaine de Wolf. I don't know if it was Tony Stewart's or Elaine de Wolf's, either or. But before that it was Hysterics. Yeah. And we walked past the stage, and the comic, who I will not name, I'll put it in my book one day, was struggling. Yeah. Right? Yes. It was really, really. And he hasn't always struggled. I'd say he had a 50-50 hit rate. And he was really, really struggling this night. And we sort of like looked at him through the window, Brendan and I, and we said, and we didn't really know the stand-up industry. We didn't really know it. It was relatively new to South Africa. We didn't know it. And we said, let's go help this guy. We didn't know the thing about booking and agents and the management and none of that. We just saw a guy was trying to be funny on stage and he was dying. And shame. Yeah. Let's go help this guy. And I said, no, we're going to be late for the movie. We've got a movie to watch it. But besides, we don't have our degree yet. And no, we'll have time for this stuff later in life. We're studying, we're students. We're going to go watch a movie. We're not going into a smoky pub right now. Yeah. And I can't remember the manager's name. He had a London name. He was always swearing. He was a horrible guy. He was horrible. Yeah. Martin. His name was Martin or something. It was a horrible human being. It was horrible. I think it was the same guy who put porn magazines on the table so you can watch the show. And if you want to buy the magazine, buy a magazine, put another $20 on the bill and take it home with you. It was that kind of guy. He was disgusting. Yeah. And but lovely. We loved that, right? It was dark. And then so we went up to him and said, please can we go do a set? And he was so rude to us. He was like, no. And like Brendan said, I bet you we're 10 times funnier than this guy. So he said, oh, all right, then I'll give you 5 minutes. You go up there. If you're funnier, I'll pay you. If you don't, I'll f you up, is what he said to us. So I was like, whoa, I didn't expect this kind of pressure. I was like, let's just go. I just wanted to be funny. This escalated way too quickly. And we rehearsed the sketch. And that sketch eventually became The Houseboys, which we ran for about 3 or 4 years. And so my first 3 or 4 years on stand-up comedy, I never spoke. I was the mime. And Brendan did all the sound effects. And
I remember that,
yeah. So, and it's actually on the first Parker's comedy cassette, video cassette. And so that's where that moment started. But it took another 3 years before I started stand-up comedy. And it was in the same club. Magic Man was on. And the MC, I don't know if that had a car accident or whatever, or was sick, but back then you never missed a gig. And the MC wasn't there. And so Magic Man said to me, just go MC. And I'm like, dude, I'm the mime. I never even greeted the crowd. I'm not the MC.
Yeah.
The irony in this is that like a few years after that, I became like the most booked MC for comedy evenings. And ironically, my first 3 years, I was mute. I was silent. I said nothing. Anyway, so he said to me, just go up there. It'll come to you. You got funny bones and you'll be great. You're great. You'll be fine. And I'm like, I have nothing. I literally have nothing. But the show has to go on. Somebody had to go up there. And I think he was the opening act. The second act hadn't even arrived yet. And Houseboys was supposed to close the evening. And so I was like, I was literally the only person who could go and MC because Andrew couldn't bring himself on. Yeah. And so my first gag was we play the intro music. And then I walk up the steps on the front of the stage and I fell down on my face as I was able to do because I was a physical comedian, but I fell like literally right onto my face and then stood up and dusted myself off. And the whole crowd just like went, you know, and then I leaned into the mic and I said, that's my impression of the Rand. And so that was my first spoken gag.
And it worked.
Later, you'll notice when I fall down twice, one after the other, and I say, that was my impression of the World Trade Center. This was quite soon after 2001. Jeez. And so I actually clapped my headphones. I don't know if I can hear you, Alex. So yes, that was my first. Yeah, so I remember crystal clear my first gig.
Well, thank God that happened, man, because you've given us the gift of laughter for many, many years. I've actually watched your show with the mimes and stuff. I think the last time I watched it was in Bubba J's in Boksburg. Yes. And I checked that show. Yes, stuck in, bro. And honestly, even the stuff you did on TV where you just have to improvise. What's it? Man, was it like a late night show?
Did we do that on TV? Did we do like the Whose Line Anyway type stuff?
I'm sure you did, man.
Oh, are you talking about Play TV?
Yes, Play TV.
Play TV with Pabi Malloy.
Yeah.
Yeah, where the competition, the grid came up over here and we're like, well, nobody's calling. Yeah. Nobody's calling. That was like the biggest scam. I don't know if I can say this now, but I mean, it was I don't know. It was like the biggest scam because the games are always so easy. It's like, why can nobody see the number? What is the number that is over there between the 3 and the 5? If you can see the number, please call in. And if you're the fifth caller, you win. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I remember it so well.
And then people would phone in, and the recording was like R5 a call back then, which is it was a fortune. And you would phone through and say, "You are caller number 1," and you hang up and you phone again. "You are caller number 7," and you'd hang up until you became caller number 5. And every time it was R5 a pop, and it was the entire country. They were making pond, and we were getting paid SABC rates, and
good old
it was
days.
like, they were making real money. So when Pabi and I came along and said, we kind of know how much money you're making, can we get a raise? And they were like, sure, we'll give you industry standard raise, give you like 10-12%. We were like, no. We were thinking double, maybe quadruple. You're paying us SABC rates here, and you guys are making Broadway money. We want Broadway money. Yeah. And so they said no. So we said no. So that was the end of that year contract. But it was a good learning. It was a great learning thing.
Well, you know what? You made it fun to watch, dude. Honestly, there was some nights back then. There was SABC 1, 2, 3 and ETV if you were freaking poor, and you were one of the funniest acts to watch on that time. So thank you. Thanks, you were a gift to us poor people.
I was lucky to get the gig because I had a brand new agent, and she said, "Go to the casting, but I want people to start seeing you at the castings. You're too old for the gig, but I want to send you to the casting anyway." And that's not how my mind works. My mind goes, "I want the gig," and so I went to the casting, and they liked me, and then they were like looking at my card, and they were like, "No, we're looking for someone who's 18 to 22," because they were looking for that just out of YoTV age bracket, right? Yes. So it was YoTV go to Play TV, and at that stage I was already, I don't know, like 26, 27. Yeah, I was way too old. And then they called me back for a callback, and I think I just had a lot of energy, and I really wanted it, and I was fearless back then, and they just decided, you know what, if we put enough bass on him, no one will know he's not 19. Just put enough powder on him, it's fine. And so I got the gig, and it was good. I bought my first Audi with that money, so it was lekker.
Nice.
there you
Well, obviously, the standards weren't too cuck then. If you could afford an
Yeah, it
Audi back
wasn't too
then, it was great. It's great.
It wasn't
Well,
too bad.
well, listen, Darren. Where's the funniest show you've ever had? What's the show you can remember where you go like, that's the biggest cracker I've ever done, where you've even like cracked yourself up on stage? Because I'm sure that happens.
Well, you know what, White, you'll remember this back in the day. Again,
Yeah.
back in the day, where
Yeah,
you would finish off.
yeah.
You'd finish. You'd finish off half a bottle of Southerns before you even started the show, and then you still had shooters with the audience and with yourself, and it was like, it was a different world. It was a different world back then, and then it would happen regularly and mostly in places like Hysterics. The one in Four Ways, Hurricanes.
Yes.
And then when I was emceeing Dax in Pretoria, that became my room. It was supposed to be, we would rotate the comedians to MC that. So every comedian would MC it once a month, and then you'd rotate the host and then rotate the comedians. But it just became my room, and it just they loved me, I loved them, and you could really push the envelope where you could do those kind of jokes. And if I try to get up there and clean it up and do structured comedy, they would boo me. They literally wanted me to do freestyle improv, crazy blue rude stuff, whatever happened in the news, and a lot of what's happening in the rooms. So I can't think right now of which one evening was my favorite, but I do remember a hell of a lot of Dax and at Hurricanes. When you're young and you don't have any stresses and you're actually just enjoying it and you're not doing it so much for a living, it's a lot easier. And the moment you start doing it for a living and you're being compared, and like if you have a bad gig here, you're not going to get booked for the next one, and that affects your, whether you can pay your mortgage or not. And so the comics now are a lot more strategic in writing their material and delivering it, and so there isn't that gung-ho cowboy fearlessness that we had back then. And now you're working rooms, so if I do big rooms like the Durban ICC for the Kings and Queens every year, or Darren Maule and Friends in September. It was supposed to be September. It'll probably be November this year. We're looking at like 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 people, and it's just it doesn't have that smoky bar intimacy of 100. Maybe some days, it would be you wouldn't even make enough money for the gig. There would be like 60 people in the room, but you'd get them all together, and you would just hoy with each other. And you would do those kind of jokes where some guy would be there with his hot girlfriend and she'd be right in front, and you say, your girlfriend is doit, hey? And you'd say, yeah, I know. And then you'd say, listen, on a scale of 1 to 10, I'd give her 1 in the naught. And that's what we would get away with back then. You can't do that now.
You'll get cornered and you'll get like nailed on whatever social media thing is there. I think that's one thing that comedians have got to like deal with now is the whole social environment where like I love like the big name comedians and stuff, and I know Bill Burr is like, he loves all this negative stuff. He thrives on that one person that'll sit there and not laugh. That becomes his target. Do you prefer the bigger shows or the more intimate shows? Which ones do you prefer the most?
My bank likes the big shows. Yes. But for me, the sweet spot is to get a room between 300 and 550. That's the sweet spot. A nice small theater. That's the yummy one. So any comics that are going to be shooting their special, don't get a big room. Don't get a Dave Chappelle or a Jerry Seinfeld room. Get yourself a nice 300 to 500 seater. A small little intimate theater, and it's raked so everyone can see. No one's looking past anyone and losing out on it, and occasionally you can make eye contact with everyone in the room, and it just becomes this massive conversation. That's the best room is that. I love that. I'd rather do 100 of those for a little bit of money than one big 6,000er. I know there are a lot of the comedy festivals that want to make them big spectaculars with lots of acts and a big room. And although I do them, they're good paydays. And, I don't think that people really get it because it takes you about 5, 7, sometimes 10 in. And if you've got 14 on the lineup, that's the only time that they have. So you've just formed a relationship and then they're off. And then the next comedian or the show is just about forming relationships and never letting them blossom into full on laughter. So yeah, I would rather do 100, 600
Awesome, man.
seaters than 6,000 seater.
You know what I was very upset about, and not for a lack of trying, is that you never came to perform at my and your namesake's club, Mr. Simpson, at Carnival City. This is, you remember the old Supersport bar where we performed a lot? You remember that? Now, when was, and now about 3 years ago, Mr.
I did that on
Rob,
purpose because it would have been confusing because it's Darren Simpson and Darren Maule. People will go, why are they saying Darren twice?
Yeah.
People would just get confused.
Doesn't matter.
And
the people beg for you. The people beg for you. And it's a perfect club, like you said, a 200 seater.
Darren Simpson, Radio Durban. I would love to have worked that room. In actual fact, Darren had asked me, and I said to him, as soon as I'm in town, I will work that room. And I just never got around to it. I was never in town long enough. I think back then, Mouse was living with her mum in Joburg, so I would fly up and I would do 1 or 2 gigs, but the rest of the time I would actually just spend quality time with my child. So I was finding myself turning down gigs just to be a parent. And that's one of those gigs that fell through the cracks. I also never got to do any of the Goliaths clubs. I didn't get to do Stig's Club. I didn't do any of the ones in Fox. So like back, as you know, like I was in every. I even used to do in Soweto. I would do any gig. I never turned down a Joburg gig. But once you move, once you move, you can't.
So listen,
I feel bad about that. I would love to have done your gig.
I would have loved to have you there because it was one of those rooms that just always worked. It was everybody, the guys actually came from far and wide. They wanted to perform that room because the crowd was so lekker. And we always mocked the East Rand crowd, the Brakpanners and the boxing people. But actually some of the loveliest people and the people that enjoys the comedy the best. They really enjoy it the best, and it's so much fun to just sit there and watch and enjoy.
No, some of the best audiences were out there, but before you guys were there, there was a long-standing Carnival City gig at the sports bar, and your audience was made up literally of Boksburg, Brakpan, Edenvale, and that's it. That was your audience. And we had comics fly up from Cape Town, and they would do that gig on the Friday and the Saturday, sometimes the Improv on the Thursday, and that was one of the yummiest audiences. That room
was the Supersport bar room.
We'll get him back now, I'm sure.
But basis one of the yummiest.
We know that one. We know that one, dude. We know that one. Well, dude, at one of those shows, I must say, I saw one of the most classic hecklers I've ever seen in my life. You were emceeing a comedy show there, and the whole time he was like, "Lekker Joe." And after every comedian, when you came up to introduce it, he was like, "Cop it, flow, Joe. Hey, Joe." It was a couple of colored oaks there, man. And eventually you were like, "Listen, I'm Darren. Who's this Joe you keep talking about?" And he's like, "Hey, Joe, nay." He just turned it all around that night. That was one of the most classic heckles. And I was waiting for you to like kick heckler ass. I was waiting for that because you rise to the occasion always. And you just like, I could see you just like give up, like fucking just tell me who's this Joe guy. Yeah, and he was like, "I don't know."
He won that one because you're quite right, because he had loaded it so well. Like he did it once earlier, and then he did it once again, and then he did it once again. And the audience now remembered it. It was the greatest load ever. So he'd loaded it. When the MC took the bait and said, "I'm not Joe," and he says, "You are Joe Nye." That's just he won. And it's not often the heckler wins. And you're right, back then, Fearless Darren. And because I did so much changing. I was the most fearless and the most blue, and I didn't care about the language, and I didn't care about reputation or any of that kind of stuff when I was starting up in stand-up comedy. And then I joined. Damn, man. A rather radio station, not conservative, but we sort of like, we are mindful of the community. And then I found very early that there was a disconnect because people heard me on air and they wanted to have me at their event. So when they heard, Darren on air and Gutter Darren arrived at the event, it was like hard to reconcile. So I did a conscious decision to sort of like, okay, I'm cutting all of that. I literally started stand-up comedy all over again because I couldn't use one of my old gags. They were all below the belt, blue, unacceptable. And I had to literally start all over again. So old school Darren, I think I actually remember that evening. Old school Darren would have just gone into this this heckling. In actual fact, I've watched Joey Rasdeen go into a heckler, and then I would be backstage with him and say, I think you might have been a bit rough there. And Joey's like, look who's talking, bro. I've seen you. And,
I've seen the mirror.
And I'm like, I remember that evening, and no, he won that one.
Well, while we on the like subject of jokes and stuff, back then, okay, you were fearless and stuff. What was your like heaviest, most offensive freaking joke that you told that you haven't told in so long?
You can of
I'm
worms.
not gonna do it. Are you mad?
Can of worms, Chris, is your mouth.
I'm not gonna do it. Why did
one
you remember?
Yes.
You gotta think of one that's in the perimeters that you won't get fired for if this goes like viral.
Yeah.
Because everything you did could get you fired.
Everything back there would have got me fired. I
try to think of one that we can go, but my mind is just like no. And this show we can swear and fluke and say nee and alles is kwaai. We need to remember your show that's coming up on Monday morning. They're going to say, "Luister, meneer Maule, you were on that Whitey and Chris show, and
this
you
guy
about the donkey and like Conrad Koch the other day. You are now without job."
Do you know, it's so funny you should say that because okay, now that you're mentioning that, okay, there's like the stuff, because now I'm remembering the stuff that I used to do at Jet, and Jet was another place. Did not let me, because I would go, I was resident MC. I emceed that room for over a year, right? Every single Thursday. And it was, and I would say 90% of the same people came back the next week. So you always had to do relatively new stuff, but they wouldn't let me do structured comedy. They would not let me do stuff like 10 years ago, I threw a boomerang one day that's going to catch up with me. And they won't let you do structured jokes. They won't let you do stuff like that. You know, like what was one of those one-liners? They wouldn't let me do that. So I always used to do really, really, audience interaction stuff and just push the envelope and go as far as you can. And plus, it was compromised Darren. So it was Darren who had the assistance of, 37% proof alcohol to give you all the Dutch courage. So you just went. You just went with it. And sometimes it win. And the nice thing about it is because you were fearless, even when it didn't win, the audience appreciated it. And they were like, that's our guy. That's our guy. It's fine. Bring on the next act and we'll enjoy him again in the next link. And I do remember, there was like, I would do 20 minutes. Yeah. I'm going to watch my words here. Because Whitey knows what I'm talking about. I would do 20 minutes. So like, I'm an MC, so I'm supposed to do 5 to 7 minute links. All right. I would do 20 minutes between acts, just naming the words used for female biology. That's all. There would be 20 minutes, and then I would go into full descriptions on how you would change those names and how one engages with
the anatomy.
Said anatomy to get certain reactions. And then I would compare those reactions to the sounds on the Starship Enterprise. Doors opening and closing, buttons.
I remember.
Do you remember now, Whitey? I could not get away with that stuff now. And in actual fact, and I used to do this thing about, I don't know how often this happens, but everyone, and I don't know why I'm even allowed to do it anymore, but like I would talk about you go to the bog, right? Everyone goes to the bog at least once a day. You go
Yeah.
to the bog, and if you're not going once a day, eat more fiber. Damn it,
Yeah.
get some fiber in your diet. You should,
You need
diet.
to
You should be going to the bog twice a day, or at least once a day, and occasionally, and big guys like you and me, Whitey, we celebrate this, right? Occasionally, you just get 3 perfectly evenly sized.
Logs.
Let's call them logs. Let's call them loaves. Call them what you want to. And
Yeah.
and it's like, and I always ask the question. That is an accomplishment. That is an, and
Absolutely.
also it's one of those where you go and you get the toilet paper and nothing, and you go,
Clean.
must be phantom. I can see 3 monsters over there. So you get some more toilet and and there's nothing. There's like, you go, I don't know how that happened. It was obviously, this was what they call a transcendental poop, although every poop is transcendental because that's an out-of-body experience. And I would do 20 to 30 minutes just describing that and how amazing it was.
Cock.
And the antithesis of that is that, and then if you're a hairy guy, how it must be challenging for anything, because it's like Dr. Livingstone in the jungle. And those are the places that you can't go there anymore. It's like you have to think about the mayor is in the room, and people, because when you're doing breakfast radio, you talk as if the mayor is in the room all the time.
Yeah.
Because if somebody quotes, Darren spoke about 3 loaves in the presence of her honorable Fauzia Pia, or Andile Glamede, or I don't even know who the mayor is now. Oh, sorry, it's Mr. Kawunda. Then that's like, it's bad,
Very bad.
So, but listen, I don't regret it. Hey, everyone asks me, like, don't you, like, especially when we have these festivals and I bump into the old school guys, right?
Yeah.
And especially the guys that we would party hard, and they said, don't you miss it or whatever? And I go, no, because I did it, and I did it hard. Like I said, I got the medal.
Absolutely. We love you for it, because we know the old Darren, and we love the new Darren, but the old Darren will forever be in our hearts. That I can promise you, man. But what's your like icebreaker joke now? When you check, okay, you've got a tough crowd. What's the line that you go to where you're like, this, if this doesn't work, I'm someone gonna get off. This is not worth it.
Well, I think it changes like from gig to gig, because mostly I do corporates now, right? So you've got to just do you've got to base it on who your crowd is, and all you do is just compliment them up front, and then they're on your side. So you've got to listen to what the keynote speaker said, and then just find something to latch on there, and then you go from there. It's not like a comedy room where you're just going to start cold. I always like the idea, if you're going to start a comedy room, then tell 3 one-liners and tell the audience, I'm testing you, because then it's like, okay, we're having a relationship now. So I'm going to tell you 3 one-liners, and then you tell me which one you like, and we'll do comedy down that road.
Yeah.
So you'll start off with what did the drummer name his twin daughters?
I don't know.
Anna 1, Anna 2.
Okay, there you got all the muses. And then the
audience kind of laughs, and you go, okay, cool. I've made a mental note of where that one fits in. What do you call a nun in the gym?
I don't know.
Virgin active.
Oh.
Okay, you guys like the dirty? Okay, cool. Okay, you get to like the dirty.
Yeah.
And you say, let's check the the intellectual there. How many DJs does it take to change a light bulb?
I don't know.
1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. In actual fact, DJs are too lazy to change the light bulb. They actually ask the audience to do it. You all, everybody, put your hands up in the air. Change the light bulb if you can. So now, so I've established that I will tell dirty. I'm not too scared of telling controversial jokes, because you threw the nun one in there in the middle. They laughed at it a little bit nervously. Yeah. They laughed at it. Plus, you got the silly stuff. Plus, you got the engaging. So, if I'm working a cold room, I'll normally open with like something like that.
Okay, that's brilliant. That's guidance to all future comedians. And tell me, are you still as actively involved in getting some more comedians out there and organizing better venues and stuff? Well, not now, but definitely after this.
I'm so glad you asked that, because I keep wanting to pick up the phone and see what are the comedians doing. Are they starting Patreon pages? Are they starting subscription pages? And because I've always maintained, like you'll notice, I haven't got a comedy special. I don't put comedy on DVD. Parker put it on DVD. He put my one set on and the Houseboys on, but I didn't, because I don't agree with it. I have a fundamental issue with recording stand-up comedy. For me, it's all about the relationship with the audience. This is why I want the audiences intimate and small. I don't want the big 6,000 seaters. Stand-up comedy has to be live. It has to be an organic relationship that happens in the moment and energy. So I've never been a fan of DVDs or streaming. Anyone who praises Dave Chappelle, if you've never seen him live, you don't know what you're talking about. Dave Chappelle, with the specials that you watch on TV, it's a shadow. It's like watching the shadow of Bruce Lee up against the wall and going, wow, what an amazing fighter. No, you saw nothing. You felt nothing. The fact that he has these wonderful, long, awkward silences where the room sort of like, do we stay? Do we go? And then he has you in, crying down your face, laughter 10 minutes later, then makes you offended 10 minutes after that. And you go, this is genius when you watch someone like that. You don't get that from the DVD. Now we're in a situation where the comics that have been using these platforms are in the pound seats, because they know how to do it. One of the guys who's really nailing it is Sculpt Note. He does these morning updates.
I've checked some of his stuff. He's got funny bones. He's one of my favorite comedians, and he's doing very well. But that's like goes straight to Facebook, and he constantly gets like 400-500 shares of a 10-minute video. So he's owning it. But to answer your question, when I do Kings and Queens of Comedy in Durban, we have all of our headliners, and I always try to throw in one or two guys. One of those guys has gone on to do very well. He's now got a Showmax special, Neil Green. Okay.
And another guy, Mo Vauda, he's on his way up. Well, he was on his way up until the industry plateaued. But it isn't like I used to do. Back in the day, like when I did Jet, that was once a week. I would get 3 young up and coming and only 1 or 2 headliners. And it's sort of like now we do festivals where it's mostly headliners, and I'll try and squeeze in. At the end of the year, when I do Darren Maule and Friends, that'll be another opportunity, but I've got to give the crowd what they pay for. So they'll get 6 headliners and then 2 guys that are sort of like working their way up. But I don't get to promote them as much as I used to. But it is on my radar, and it is something that I'd like to do.
Thank you, man, because I strongly believe that, it's guys like you, it'll keep comedy and stuff alive in South Africa. And I know Whitey wants to ask you a last couple of questions.
Just a last question, Darren. I see this hour went by extremely quickly. After lockdown.
It's been an hour.
It's been an hour.
We've been having fun, man.
Ons praat kak, meneer.
Lekker kak. En ons praat lekker kak en is vinnige kak, man. Vinnig.
Sonnebrandewyn. Kan jy dit glo? Hier ons dit ons vir 'n uur praat kak sonnebrandewyn.
Jy sit sonnebrandewyn.
Ag, kry vir jou, kom met 'n slukkie van my water kry hierso. Daar's my water.
Kry vir jou 'n slukkie daar.
You also promoting your dop. Let me promote my healthy living here. Flow water extracted from the air, condensed. No rivers or thunderstorms.
The sweat drops of virgins. That looks delicious. Look, even though we're not in the East Rand, we're still on the Rand. We're just on the West Rand now. So you can't do this stuff without a couple of sips of some branas or something.
Anyway, I hear you.
One time we choke it out of the budgies and stuff here. If your neighbors speak to their budgies with their brandy breath, it's like a chamois. You just hoist a couple of drops out of these budgies.
Exactly. So Darren, just to get back to that last question, I know a lot of people have been asking on WhatsApp or what. I just want to know, after this lockdown, besides East Coast radio and everything, are you going to be doing comedy shows up and down the coast? That's a lot of KZN questions, like, are you going to go up to Richards Bay, down to the South Coast, Scottsboro, wherever? Are you going to do shows again, or what's the lineup for you?
I do shows down here as often as I can when I can find time for them. I've done, but you're quite right. Actually, this lockdown is actually an opportunity to finish that my one man, because I do end up emceeing a lot or being a part of ensemble shows. So we do stuff at Sabaya, we do stuff at Suncoast, we do stuff at Wild Coast, and we do the ICC and the DCCs. And there's a lot of young guys that are doing sort of like mini festival type things. And unfortunately, the lockdown did sort of scupper our plans. I had plans because KZN is very spread out, and I find that we are communicating and engaging only with the people in sort of like Mklanga, maybe up to Belito, not as far as Richards Bay, and then maybe up to sort of like Hillcrest and Kloof, and we leave everyone out of that. Now, I would like for us to take radio physically on some kind of a bus and just go down to Port Alfred, as far as there, or at least Sheppies, Scottsboro, go down into the Midlands, maybe go up as far as Ladysmith, and then all the way up to Evangeni, and maybe hit the Dundees and the Newcastles and whatever. And the idea is for us to drive there, broadcast in the morning, and maybe do a little bit of a thing in the evening where I could actually have all of the talent that are on East Coast Radio do a little something. So Neil Green and myself and Rory will do a little bit of comedy, and Kerry and Sky, and Danny can do maybe some dance improv or whatever. But I like the idea of this old, like a concert in the city hall.
Stuckend.
So like we bus around to let the small towns get a feel of us broadcasting from their town, and then we give them a little bit of extra gravy in the evenings. We actually have like a little concert, and we do a little bit of comedy and improv and music and dance, and actually just have a lekker jaw. So that was the plan. We were planning on it. We actually had a couple of sponsors on board, and then lockdown came. So during the lockdown, I want to get out. I want to get out to the we call them the rural areas, but they're not really rural. They're just because they're far. KZN is really, really spread out, and even it's always a 4 or 5 or 6 hour drive getting to and from these places. But we have plans, so watch the space.
Thank you very much, man, because I was going to tell you, you know what? Let us know what's happening in Darren Maule's life with this after this lockdown. But even for now, what are you doing now? And maybe get some more of the SA Bros Army onto your live show every morning.
Yeah, you guys. We broadcast from KZN, East Coast Breakfast on East Coast Radio. We've been nominated for Radio Award twice now. We won once, and we're all about. We really, really are all about just like if the music, if the radio is just on in the background, it's lekker, and if you want to turn it up and lean in, it's lekker as well. And it's also, what. There's some people, especially the digital radio stations, they seem to think, we don't have the big sponsors on board, so we can push the envelope. And they kind of forget that although, the mom and dad might find it lekker, they can't listen to it with the kids in the car. So although the material that we do, it isn't always pushing the envelope, but we are always mindful of the fact that we want you to have a lach with us, but let's not make the kids feel awkward, and let's not make you feel awkward in front of the kids, which is it's a tightrope we work. So some people could say we're a little bit on the conservative side. We want to go down the road of asking the tough questions and having a little bit of naughty fun, but we are family, and I'm happy with the fact that we are family. So if one of the bros want to come tune in, they're more than welcome. I think you put my book face and my Twitch,
everything we've put up there for you, and we'll also leave a link in our description and stuff. But dude, I've got to say,
just photos. My book face is literally actually where I do most of my engagements, and this is my second Twitter handle because someone hacked my first one, and so like I lost 70,000 followers there. So I'm like, I'm kind of over Twitter because I tried to get it back, and it was my name, and so so until Jack replies to my email, then don't even come near my Twitter. It's over here.
Well, we hope Jack gets piles and like bleeds a lot everywhere.
Let me do that. And before we say goodbye to you, Darren, I'll do that. There you go. Now it's just Insta and book face.
There we go.
Awesome.
Right. Well, listen, Darren.
Kriftraantjies, 50 randjies vir jou, Whitey. Dankie dat jy saam gespeel het. Hierso by die boekfees. En
Here, kyk hier, bro.
En
Just Darren, Slicky, take a sip of your water. Normally, I'm also slicking the water, but it's Friday night. After this, me and Whitey are going to DJ now. And normally we get quite fraught on a Friday. So thank you for joining us and giving us your time, man.
Do I leave this live or must I go to another page, SA Bros, to watch the DJing while I have dinner with the family?
That's Twitch. I'll send you the link now on the WhatsApp.
I won't suggest you go watch it with the family. That's definitely just a Darren one that you want to check.
Hang on, we still need to. He still needs to kick in before I start going a bit lolly. So old school Hurricanes party days. But at like 9 o'clock, say goodnight to the kiddies because then White is going to be voor op die koor. So it's Twitch TV. It's actually as easy as there you go. Let me show you.
Yeah. DJ Watty and DJ Chris tonight at 8 o'clock live on Twitch TV. Twitch.tv/SA_bros.
Oh, Whitey, it was actually so lucky to see you again, Chris. Nice catching up.
One time, my brother. Lucky seeing you.
Yeah.
This was a lucky deal. I really, really enjoyed this. Thank you so much.
Thank you, man. Well, my brother, have an amazing weekend and enjoy the rest of your lockdown. Keep gracing us with your amazing personality and your extremely freaking precious sense of humor. Keep it up. We will always love you for that. And thank you very much for giving us your time, my brother. Have a safe one.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Whitey. Love you. Bye.
Cheers, my brother. Bye. Awesome, man. Wow.
How cool was that?
Oh, Darren. And it's like he says, guys, if you want a Darren experience, you got to go watch a Darren Maule show live. He takes a lot more risk on a microphone, and when he's far away from the people that pay him the big bucks, and but when he's around here, or if you hear of Darren Maule in a small little pub or a club, go to that. I promise you have not laughed so lekker. That's a funny human being, dude.
Exactly. And listen, guys, I know you're itching for us to start DJing, so check it out. There it is. We are going to go to Twitch now, so I'm going to play our outro song. Please join us on Twitch. I'm going to first switch Facebook off. There, Facebook is gone. Now I'm going to switch on Twitch. So we are live on Twitch there. DJ Whitey and Chris.
SA Bros. Yeah.
Right, so guys, we are live on Twitch. We'll see you soon. Cheers.
No, we are. Well, goodbye, everybody. From SA Bros.